The Morning Majlis, talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
Your Excellency, a very good morning. Paul, who's the Consul General of the Philippines. Thank you very much for joining us. A very good morning and a very happy National Day to you.
Thank you very much for inviting me over, Abdul Karim. Happy National Day, Yaum Watanin Mubarak to everyone. It's a beautiful day, December 2nd, and we're so pleased to be part of the celebrations today.
Yes, we're excited to have you on the Morning Majlis as well. So let's start talking about, firstly, about your role as a Consul General. It's always a very busy role. Talk to us about the importance of the relations with the United Arab Emirates and how important they are for your country.
Sure. There are about 700,000, even probably more Filipinos in the UAE, and a lot of them have been here for quite some time now. They've made the UAE their second home, and this is where they've raised their families, their children, and some of the children have even become, part of the workforce here. And so it's a very vibrant community. It's not as big as the Indian or the Pakistani communities, but it's still very sizable, and it's a people-to-people contact between the UAE and the Filipinos that have made our bilateral relations very special. Of course, there's a lot of trade, there's a lot of investments as well on each side, but more importantly, the social connection, the bridge between our peoples, because we are here together with 200 other different ethnicities and nationalities that makes it really, really special.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about your term here and how long have you spent here and what was your first impression of coming and the memories of your first time arriving in the country.
Sure. I arrived in June 2015, so a little over 5.5 years now. And I've never been to the Middle East before. And the first thing that I noticed when I came out of the plane was it was hot. It was in the middle of summer, June 21st, 2015. And, I was saying to myself, so this is what it means to be in desert heat. And it's one thing to be, to come out, to be welcomed by the heat, but it's also another to be welcomed warmly by the people here. And this is what I found out in the past couple of years, that this place is a place where everybody can just mix and mingle and not be worried about differences in religion or differences in perspective and philosophies, but everybody just learns to coexist so happily and peaceful at that. And it's one thing that I will really miss if and when I leave the UAE. My kids have had a wonderful time here. My kids graduated from high school here. They're now in the university, and they just can't wait to come back to the UAE every time their semester is over.
Well, so now it's going to be holding a special place in your heart and their hearts as well, certainly. So now I want to ask you, what's your favorite pastime? You're an expert of the UAE now. You must have explored every corner. What's your favorite pastime and favorite type of cuisine you like to try in the country?
Sure, I'm an urban landscape guy, and I enjoy looking at how the buildings are constructed and how they're shaped, the architecture and so forth and so on. And the Cayenne Tower in Dubai Marina is my constant favorite. I love passing by the buildings, looking at the architecture, taking pictures, taking photos, especially also of the Burj Khalifa. I can never get enough of it, and it's something that I would always do whenever I'd be going around Dubai, taking photos, looking at how buildings are being constructed. The last one that I was really obsessed with was the Museum of the Future, and I've seen it from nothing into now. It's almost done and over, and almost opening, and it's something that maybe my Instagram account can never get enough of as well.
That's always good to see that. So lastly, if I would like to ask you in terms of your final message to all the Filipinos out there and the UAE residents in terms of wishing them a happy National Day and your word of advice for them, what would it be?
Sure. 2020 has been a difficult year, not just for Filipinos, but for the rest of the world. Not just in the UAE, but for everybody in the world. And we've seen how the UAE has tried its best to cope with the challenges that COVID-19 faces, gives for us. And we've been here for the past 20, 30 years. The Filipinos have become a part and parcel of the UAE family. We've seen our people grow and mature as part of this society, and we do hope that more Filipinos would take their life in the UAE very seriously. They do actually, and they've come up with lots of initiatives as far as business is concerned, education, culture, and we've shown the rest of the other ethnicities and nationalities what it means to be a productive member of the UAE society. Let's continue being so, and at the same time, let's show the rest of the other ethnicities as well what the Filipino spirit and hospitality is all about. This is we may not be Emirati citizens, but the UAE has encouraged everybody to feel that they are a part of and parcel of the UAE family, and this is something that we need to keep in mind. So we have a stake as far as the economy is concerned, education, security, and and being part of a community that respects each other, and even if there are differences in philosophy or religion or perspective, we're still one big happy family, and we do hope we continue to be so as part of the UAE community. Happy National Day again to everyone. Yaum Watanin Mubarak to all, and God bless us all. Let's have a beautiful time this weekend.
If you liked this episode of the Morning Majlis, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.
Pulse